This is the Thesis DaCapo. This is the newest hybrid offering from Thesis Yoyos, following up the success of the Serenade, which was released in 2018. It's interesting to see Thesis revamping a relatively older model in this manner, which allowed them to bring back a success from the past in a completely new light. In this review, I want to talk about this yo-yo in 6 different categories: material construction, design, playfeel and intent, vibe condition, performance, and my final comments. I will also note differences between the DaCapo and its past iteration, the Serenade, through this review as well. Let's talk about the material construction of this yo-yo. This is a bi-material yo-yo composed of a machine delrin body, 6061 aluminum caps, and 6061 aluminum bearing and an axle hub. Right off the bat, this is a key difference from the Serenade. The Serenade was a full delrin model, while the DaCapo presents itself as a hybrid yo-yo. The body surface of this yo-yo is smooth and low friction, as it's natural for machine delrin. The caps on this particular colorway are anodized and blasted, although polished, non-blasted cap versions exist in other colorways. Let's talk about the design of this yo-yo. This yo-yo boasts a diameter of 56.6mm, a width of 49.7mm, and a weight of 65.6 grams. These specs don't stray away from the common string trick unresponsive yo-yo, and they do put this yo-yo into the wide and big category. Here are some dimensional comparisons with a Yo-Yo Factory shutter wide angle, just for reference. As we can see, they are very similar in diameter, and they are also very similar in width, with the DaCapo being a bit wider than the shutter wide angle. This is an interesting case for a hybrid yo-yo. Usually, hybrid yo-yos are designed to maximize performance on a yo-yo that is mostly made of plastic. This is not exactly the case of the DaCapo, since the way Thesis decided to implement the hybrid design was caps. The aluminum caps add weight far from the center of the yo-yo, thus generating more inertia, but the effect caps have on a yo-yo is different from the one rings could have. It's worth mentioning that the caps on this yo-yo are not removable, and also that Thesis decided to provide 2 different cap designs, a convex and a concave one. The one I acquired and the one being reviewed today is a convex model. According to Thesis themselves, the convex DaCapo plays floatier, while the concave DaCapo plays more solid. While I wish the difference between them was explained in less vague terms, I'm convinced the difference between the two is both minimal and negligible, and that this review can apply to any version, even if you're looking to purchase a concave one. This yo-yo has a profile that makes it comfortable to hold, mainly because of those big, rounded rims and the severe drop towards the response area. This yo-yo feels full and big on the hand, thing that is confirmed by the specs. This is to be expected due to the material this yo-yo is made of. The profile ends on a subtle response bump that is just big enough to make sure that the string will never touch the slope down the response and will only enter in contact with the rims of the yo-yo. We can find a cute engraving of a glass of wine on the surface of the cap, which is in theme with the colorway of this yo-yo. I am a big fan of plastic yo-yos of solid colors and white caps, and this seemed like a great opportunity to own something similar, yet different and more modern. At this point of the review, I would like to mention that this yo-yo was manufactured by Yo-Yo Empire, very much like the Serenade, and personally I think that is great news. The reason why I think this is important is because Yo-Yo Empire is a machine shop that is recognized for their high quality work on plastic yo-yo designs. They have had numerous machine plastic yo-yo models through the years, and most of them have been acclaimed by the people who try them. Personally, I am a big fan of Yo-Yo Empire plastic yo-yo offerings. It is not that the machine shop that makes your yo-yo matters that much, since every known and trusted machine shop is capable of producing high quality yo-yo. But it is comforting to know that the manufacturing of this yo-yo was handled by a machine shop with so much experience on the material of choice. that gives me the comfort of knowing this yo-yo is probably not going to randomly have its hub strip and be rendered useless, like some other Delrin yo-yo designs have done in the past. Taking a look at the bearing and axle hub of this yo-yo, we can confirm it is exactly the same system Yo-Yo Empire has been using for a while now. It uses an aluminum insert that creates the bearing post and a washer that serves as a stopper for the bearing. I can personally confirm that this bearing hub system works perfectly fine, even with repeated screwing and unscrewing of the yo-yo, and other yo-yo brands such as C3 have used a similar system too. Something worth noting is that the washer, even if it fits snug on the yo-yo, is not held up by any friction, and it can come off with very little force. Be mindful of this when you are unscrewing your yo-yo, as it has happened to me that the washer just comes off and drops to the floor when I am either untangling an ugly snag or maintaining the bearing. You really don't want to lose those. This yo-yo uses a 10mm axle, no complaints there, and the bearing fits tightly on the bearing post, so you will need a bearing tool to take it off. Finally, this yo-yo uses a full-size C bearing and a standard 19mm pads. The bearing that comes stock with this yo-yo is a licensed center track bearing, and it has Yo-Yo Empire stock standard white pads. Something me and other players who have spent time playing with their DaCapos have noticed is that they can feel a little bit sleepy on binds sometimes, even when using fat string. Considering the gap width on this yo-yo is 4.5mm, which is a very standard gap width, I'm fairly positive that this is an issue caused by the hard, plasticky feeling pads that Yo-Yo Empire usually stocks on their yo-yos. To solve this issue, I have decided to use a slightly thicker string on my DaCapo for the time being, but if you are devoted to using thinner string, this issue can be solved very easily by just changing the stock pads with any grippier pads. Now let's talk about the playfeel and intent of this yo-yo. A clarification that should go first in this section is the following. Despite the fact that the DaCapo is a hybrid yo-yo, this is not a yo-yo that puts performance at the forefront, as we have already talked about in the design section of this review. However, this is not to mean that the DaCapo is devoid from any performance at all. This yo-yo is a very casual type of yo-yo. What I mean by this is that, when playing with it, I find myself equally able to both idle and autopilot tricks, and also work on learning or constructing new tricks. The DaCapo has an accommodating balance of performance and relaxed playfeel, which suggests that both of these activities can be performed interchangeably with the same yo-yo. This yo-yo has a very unique feel on the string. It's both zippy and dense at the same time. It reminds me of the behavior an object that is both big and light has, in the sense that its dimensions and somewhat hollow construction add a feeling of motion resistance that clashes with its relatively light weight. Every yo-yo has a suggested trick pacing that it suggests when thrown. In the case of the DaCapo, this is the kind of pacing this yo-yo suggests me every time I pick it up. This yo-yo does not suggest a fast playstyle at all. It likes to stay at a mid-level pace while blazing through combos. It's the same kind of pacing a lot of the flow players like to remain at to give a more concrete idea about it. You can go decently fast with this yo-yo, and you can definitely brute force it to go much faster. However, I found that every time I wanted to push this yo-yo any harder than the regular rail combo speed, my consistency would plummet, since I had to increase the amount of concentration and yo-yo control to complete each trick, since the yo-yo does not support those kind of speeds comfortably. This yo-yo has a very comfortable throw and a very accommodating acceleration curve when thrown, with no tug at the end of a breakaway. I am also surprised at how well it conserves momentum, especially on a bind after a long combo. It usually returns to your hand with confidence. Now let's talk about the vibe condition of this yo-yo. I usually am not one to comment excessively on the vibe of a yo-yo, or to arbitrarily classify it on a meaningless, subjective 1 to 10 scale. I just limit myself to mention if the yo-yo might present any vibe that could affect playability in a certain way, or that could be an indicator of poor manufacturing. However, I feel obligated to mention how smooth the DaCapo is. The only reason this is relevant is because this is a design that shuffles many parts together. Again, this is nothing to be surprised of, as Yoyo Empire has demonstrated to be perfectly capable of producing a smooth hybrid Yoyo in the past, and the DaCapo is no exception. Now to talk about the performance of this Yoyo. For general trick performance and binds, this Yoyo lands noticeably on the string and it takes little effort to move it from formation to formation. Despite it being considerably wide, it stays within boundaries of most deck mounts and tricks. As mentioned in the design section of this review, the 4.5mm gap width is a common feature in modern designs, and it will take normal and fat string with ease with preference towards fat string, but only once you have changed the stock pads for better performing ones. If you keep the stock pads, this Yoyo definitely requires a thicker string in order to have snappy binds. This gap width has standard string layer performance, which is pretty good by modern expectations. Now let's talk about grinds. This Yoyo is very accommodating for most standard finger grinds. The shape is nice and flared out down to the response bump, which is very grind friendly. Added to this, the surface treatment of the Delrin body is very low friction. One aspect about this Yoyo I've been enjoying a lot is the fact that it does support talon grinds, to my surprise. I am 100% sure that Thesis did not design this Yoyo with this purpose, especially the convex cap model I have. But if you are skilled and careful enough, you can pull off some quick talon grinds and talon grind binds with this Yoyo. I am sure the concave DaCapo will be many times better in this regard than the convex cap one I have, and the aluminum caps are nicely blast, adding to the positive talon grind performance of this Yoyo. Now let's talk about Regens. This Yoyo does not do you any favors when it comes to Regens. It regens as good as your technique allows it to. Since the profile it sports does not provide any rounded surfaces near the response area, you get no aid for Regens from this Yoyo. However, you can regen any Yoyo, so if you have been practicing, Regens on this Yoyo should not be a problem at all. Now let's talk about the stressing tricks. This Yoyo is surprisingly capable when it comes to stressing tricks. What I mean by this is that, given that almost any Yoyo can handle any trick if you have enough skill and consistency, I find myself not having to exert tremendous amounts of concentration in order to land demanding combos using the DaCapo. The DaCapo is not the easiest Yoyo to push up to high speed, which is surprising given its relatively light weight. This gives it that hovering, dense feel that I described earlier on the Playfeel section on the review. One good thing about the DaCapo is that if you decide to brute force high speeds out of it, this Yoyo can 100% take them without choking midway. This is mostly due to the accommodating profile it sports. This review is not going to be integral, because my current skill set does not let me evaluate this Yoyo's horizontal performance, but my dear friends at Thesis, Jordan, Khent and Joe were kind enough to provide me with short clips of horizontal tricks using the DaCapo.
No, I got tagged.
Even if I am not able to experience and explain this Yoyo's horizontal performance by myself, the fact that there's other players who can perform horizontal tricks on the DaCapo shines a very positive light on it when it comes to horizontal trick performance. Now let's talk about the catchability of this Yoyo. Of the whole 49.7mm this Yoyo has, there are about 2 to 3mm on each half that are not active catch zone, leaving us with approximately 45mm of trapeze width. This is perfectly understandable and justified by the construction, material and ergonomics of the design, so I do not see this as a bad attribute of the Yoyo at all. The remaining active catch zone of this Yoyo is still fairly wide, so all that width will help you up your consistency in catching the Yoyo or landing any slack. Now let's talk about the fingerspin capabilities of this Yoyo. Now for my final comments. Overall, I really like the DaCapo. I knew from the get-go I was going to like it just by the sheer amount of good premises this Yoyo has going for it. Machined plastic, caps, manufactured by Yoyo Empire and designed by Thesis. At a great price and with good aesthetics, I'm glad this Yoyo is now part of my ever-growing collection of premium plastic Yoyos. And that's it. That's my review of the Thesis Yoyos DaCapo. Thank you so much for watching.